Hi, I'm Erin O'Hara, Executive Director of the Tennessee Education Research Alliance.
And I'm Laura Booker, a professor at Vanderbilt University's Peabody College.
Welcome to the third episode of our second season of the 10th Period. The 10th Period is a podcast designed to bring you up to speed on the latest education research in the state of Tennessee. And on each episode, we cover a particular research study that's been done. We talk about the impact of the research on education. We talk with some educators in the field about how they think we can apply the research. And so this episode, we're going to get into talking a little bit about teacher mentors and teacher preparation. And so we're really excited to think about what the impact of training and mentors has been for teachers in the state of Tennessee, and to think a little bit about what it means in this time period.
Yeah, Erin, I'm really excited to talk about this research today because this is research when I started working at the Tennessee Department of Education 7 years ago that I really got started working with. Matthew Ronfeld, who's a professor at the University of Michigan, had just started working with Tennessee, thinking about how we use our data around teacher preparation to try to improve the quality of educator preparation for teachers in Tennessee, to try to improve then the student achievement of the students who have those teachers. So we're going to be talking actually with Matt today, and also with Kevin Shaw from the Tennessee Department of Education. And Kevin and Matt have been working together now for several years, examining promising practices to strengthen mentorship of teachers as they're going through their teacher educator preparation programs. We're also going to be talking to Kaylor Harrison, who is a fourth grade teacher at Andrew Jackson Elementary in Kingsport. And we're finally going to have on Michael Durline and Martha Moore. And Michael and Martha have also been working on this work for a number of years. They both work with Kevin and Matt through this research at the Tennessee Department of Education. So we've got a stacked lineup today, and it's a topic that I think really has meaning for Tennessee, but also, all states are preparing beginning teachers and trying to think about how we do this more effectively, and whether there are certain policies that we can implement or trainings we can implement to do this more effectively.
And Laura, so teachers in Tennessee, before you can become a teacher, there are a variety of sort of requirements. And one of those requirements is having this kind of clinical mentorship experience, having an in-person learning opportunity. At the moment, that's probably happening in some places virtually as well, where student teachers are in a classroom setting with teachers and learning on the job. And I know it's different in different places. There are sometimes different teacher preparation programs have longer experiences, shorter experiences. They think differently about how they're partnering with districts. Districts can have different requirements around who can become a mentor, how you might think about mentoring. And that was some of the basis, as I understand it, of this particular research. And we'll talk to Kevin and Matt a little bit more about that. But when you were a beginning teacher, did you have a clinical mentorship experience, and what was that like for you?
So I taught second grade more than a decade ago in the Mississippi Delta, and I was trained through Teacher America, an alternative certification program. So I did not go through the kind of standard undergraduate teacher preparation, but I did have some mentors through Teacher America and through the school where I was placed that really were foundational for helping me understand what effective teaching looks like, and observing me and giving me feedback on how to improve my own teaching practices. I would even go actually observe some of them teaching, or they would model lessons with my students about how to teach. And I also want to mention, I have my niece who's been visiting with us right now, and my niece has just finished her first year of teaching. She was trained through an educator preparation program here in Tennessee. And I was asking her about what this looks like for her as she was going through her program the year before last. And she said, everything I know I learned from my mentor teacher. The semester that she spent with a veteran teacher while she was in her senior year of college, she feels like was the thing that really set her up to be ready to take on her own classroom.
Yeah, and I think that experience is probably true. I was never a teacher. I think actually I will be the only person on the podcast today who has not been in a classroom, K-12. I've done some teaching in the higher ed environment, but K-12 classroom teacher. But I think for all of us, that learning on the job experience, that having someone show us show us the ropes, help us learn as we go is so important. So I'm excited to jump into this. And so we'll get into talking with Matt and Kevin about the background of the research. So joining us now, we have Matt Ronfelt from the University of Michigan and Kevin Schaaf from the Tennessee Department of Education, who have been the co-leads of this study. And we're really excited to have both of them here to talk about what we've learned from the Mentors Matter initiative. Kevin and Matt, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thanks for having me.
Matt, we'll start with you. Since we're talking about early career mentors and you were a teacher, and I know Kevin, you were as well, and we'll want to hear from both of you on this, but do you have any particular memories of your mentor experience, your student teaching experience?
Yeah, as a middle school teacher, I actually had three incredible mentor teachers, Carlos Cabana, Phil Tucker, and Ada Wada. My first student teaching placement was especially rich. I actually co-taught with another student teacher in a 9th grade math classroom in California in a school that served mostly lower income students of color. Carlos and Phil were actually the math department heads, and they led the department using cooperative learning approaches to teach mathematics in engaging in cognitively demanding ways. So I was actually able to observe Carlos every day and try to adopt and adapt his curriculum and pedagogy like a day or two later. So I was teaching, a couple days behind him. And then Phil, my other mentor, observed me regularly and gave feedback on my efforts. So I experienced the power of having mentors who are both effective models and coaches, something that I think our initiatives and specifically the Mentors Matter initiatives are trying to offer Tennessee program completers today.
That's awesome.
Kevin, what about you?
The two that stand out to me were Carol Wright. She really provided a model of how to engage students in her 3rd grade class. And I did my student teaching with her in my second round of starting teaching. And then years later, I got what I consider the most effective piece of crucial, critical feedback from an assistant principal, Steve Richardson, who really tied that feedback back to how do you change? How do you make a change that's going to address this issue? And those two things really stood out to me, both for the power of it, but also for the fact that I didn't have that consistently throughout my teaching. And I think what these initiatives are really trying to do is provide a systematic approach to making sure that all teachers get strong modeling and strong feedback from their mentors.
Matt, can you start us off by, talking about what the research y'all have been doing in this area is, and what have you been finding?
I've had the great fortune of working with the TDOE and Tennessee programs since 2013. So we've got a lot of takeaways, but I'll try to be brief. So our partnership work began with analyses of historical data, and based upon what we learned from those, we collaborated on developing the Mentors Matter initiatives, which aim to improve clinical preparation statewide. I'm going to summarize the historical analyses quickly and then say a bit about Mentors Matter initiatives. In terms of the historical analyses, we found that recent program completers from Tennessee teacher education programs are more instructionally effective when they had learned to teach with more instructionally effective clinical mentors. And more recently, experimental evidence suggests that relationship is causal, meaning that the more instructionally effective mentors cause program completers to be more instructionally effective. We also found that teachers who served as mentors received at least as strong, if not stronger, evaluations in years that they served as mentors as compared to other years. Some teachers worry they will receive worse evaluation scores in years they serve as mentors, so our findings suggest they shouldn't worry at all. This led to the Mentors Matter initiatives. First is the recruitment initiative, which aims to increase instructional effectiveness of the pool of teachers who serve as mentors, and then the training initiative, which aims to cultivate higher quality coaching practices among those mentors. In terms of the recruitment initiative, we found it's possible to meaningfully increase the instructional effectiveness of the pool of teachers who serve as mentors by using evaluation information from prior years to target their recruitment. And we found that the program completers working with these mentors also felt better prepared to teach. Regarding the training initiative that the state developed in collaboration with others, we found It impacted the coaching practices of mentors who attended the trainings. Candidates paired with those mentors reported receiving more frequent data-driven and modeling coaching practices. Additionally, mentors who attended the training really appreciated the quality of the training and having opportunities to focus on coaching practices. However, we also learned that even with compensation and covering substitute costs and travel, et cetera, it's really difficult for mentors to attend training during the school year. They're serving as mentors on top of a full-time teaching position, which is really challenging. We're now looking at the impacts of the training on mentors and candidates instruction. And that's to some, we haven't figured it out yet, but stay tuned. We should have some findings soon.
Kevin, when you think about the findings to date, and then also about sort of the impact of those findings on what type of research feels important from the department perspective next, what are your thoughts?
The three things that stand out to me is that summing up what we've done, or what we're hoping to do, and where we are, is I think we're on the cusp of solving two critical problems for new teachers, which is, one, are we picking the very best people to serve as their mentors? And I think we're looking at the data that we have, trying to find the best evidence we have to select and provide that data to district leaders, to EPPs, educator preparation programs, and then be able to give them that data in a way they can understand it, so they can clearly see who are the most instructionally effective teachers, and how do we make sure we're selecting those people for this crucial role of mentoring our new teachers. And then secondly, are we giving those mentors support? Do we have a curriculum of any sort for them? Do we have training and resources that guide them in this role? Because as teachers, they weren't trained in how to teach other teachers, how to teach adults. They haven't been given that support. And so we need to develop that and provide that for them. And if we can do those two things, I think we're going to make a great deal of progress in the preparation of new teachers, which means really the future of the entire state.
What is coming next in terms of research in this partnership of trying to learn how we better prepare new teachers?
So one of the things is we want to examine the initiatives that are already in place, the Mentors Matter initiatives in particular, and look at the impacts those initiatives may have on program completers' employment and early career instructional effectiveness, but also on mentors' own instructional effectiveness. We're wondering if when they attend the training on how to coach others, if they may improve in their own practice. We also want to continue to examine the mechanisms by which these initiatives may impact program completers, and specifically the roles that modeling versus coaching may play. And finally, we recently proposed two proposals related to COVID and specifically student teaching in the COVID era. One we hope to get funded is looking at how the pandemic impacted last year's cohort of program completers in Tennessee, and specifically their clinical preparation. And then the second, with Megan Shaughnessy and Julie Cohen, is one where we're hoping to develop a mentor coaching professional development program that can be purely virtual and uses mixed reality simulation, so mentors can attend the professional development at home on their phones during times that are convenient. And then we hope to study the impacts of that virtual professional development.
Matt, can you talk a little bit about just where these results fit in sort of the broader work that you and others have done around teacher preparation, and what you think makes this work particularly important?
I guess one of the main things is that, Tennessee was ahead of the curve in setting minimum levels of instructional effectiveness for teachers to serve as mentors. So, a really big, I think, implication of the work is to set high standards for instructional effectiveness like those in Tennessee for teachers to serve as mentors. And I think it's hopefully going to serve as a model for other states. Another, I think, big takeaway from the work is to make sure that mentor recruiters have access to the information on instructional effectiveness and years of experience to identify and recruit potential mentors.
So Kevin, what are you excited about in terms of next steps for this, not just from the research perspective, but actually from the potential to impact practice?
The key things I would say that are next is that we really want to make sure we capture the learning we've had through these initiatives, the research, so that we can provide that to everyone. And I think the work that Kayla's probably going to talk to you about it as a facilitator is the beginning of that. So I'm really excited about that. And the other thing is just to really look critically at the gaps of what we haven't done. So I think looking at that area, we have not trained enough teachers of color as mentors in where we've partnered, and that's just been something that's happened through the partnerships that we've happened to work on. But we need to really address that and make sure that the training addresses those issues as well, and is able to not only provide people with strong modeling and strong feedback, but also be able to help teachers develop in terms of culturally responsive pedagogy. So those are the things that I'm really focused on, taking this to the next step and making sure that all of our new teachers get the preparation that they deserve and need for our students.
Yeah, it's super helpful, and it's nice that we're in a position in Tennessee where both we can lead on this from a policy perspective, and then we have a robust set of information that you all, Kevin and Matt, can do this research on to give us the type of clear direction that I think we can use from the policy perspective. Laura, any last questions before we let these gentlemen get back to their day?
No, I just want to say thank you so much for all the work that you've been doing. I think what is really special about this partnership is that it's been, Matt said he started working in this area in Tennessee 7 years ago. And I think that this really shows how you can continue to build knowledge and to continue, and also to test out, really actionable policy and actions and programmatic actions, right? So providing districts with better information so that they can better select mentor teachers and, crafting really high quality training programs, but also being adaptable to, our changing circumstances with COVID-19 in terms of thinking about how, we always are going to need teachers, and we always are going to need to prepare beginning teachers, and how do we do this in a way that is most effective. So I just really thank Matt for the partnership on this, and I know it's been a lot more than just Matt. A lot of graduate students and a lot of people at the State Department of Education, a lot of people in our educator preparation programs around Tennessee and our districts and schools who have prioritized this and allowed the researchers to partner with them on this. So I just thank everyone who has been involved, and I'm looking forward to hearing next from Kayla Harrison, who is going to talk to us about what this looks like from her perspective.
Matt and Kevin, thanks so much for your work, and thanks for being here today.
Thanks so much for having us.
So now we're going to welcome to the podcast Kayla Harrison, who is a fourth grade teacher at Andrew Jackson Elementary in Kingsport. Kayla, welcome to the 10th period.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. So on this episode, we are talking about early career mentors. Do you have any particularly great mentors as you were first starting out as a teacher?
I absolutely do. And first that comes to mind, her name is Dr. Chrissy Turner. And Chrissy started 11 years ago as a district ELA instructional coach. And when I was starting out teaching second grade, I felt like she was going in a very innovative direction and wanting to lead our district in a new way. And sometimes change is hard for some teachers. And as a first year teacher, I sort of felt I was at a crossroads of, do I kind of go on my own and go towards this more innovative way, or do I not change? And she was a tremendous amount of help and support, and came in off hours and helped me to build my classroom and helped to push me in some leader roles. And she then became our principal, actually, at our elementary school, and I just continued to learn from her. not only as an educator, but just to watch her professionally as an administrator. And as she left last year and took a job with the state, actually, she lives in Florida now, and she is still someone that I can call on and email, and she was wonderful.
It's so important to have those kind of experiences, and it's so nice to be able to continue those relationships over time. It's how cool that she also ended up being your principal.
Yes.
So you've done the training that was talked about in the Mentors Matter brief, and now you're acting as a clinical mentor as well. Can you talk a little bit just about those experiences, what you feel like you've learned in the training, and how that has impacted what you're doing as a mentor?
Yes. So last spring, I had the opportunity to take the Mentors Matter training with Kevin. And at the time, I had a student candidate that had already been with me from August. And the neat thing about this process is that I didn't really have any formal structure to go by with this candidate. And they were embarking on a brand new, it's EdTPA is what they call it. So through the university, they are being required to do a whole new set of expectations.
Right. EdTPA is so formally and still teacher candidates have to take the Praxis, which is sort of a content knowledge assessment. The EdTPA is sort of it's a little bit more of a clinical experience assessment where you're sort of getting some feedback as a teacher on your ability to teach actually live. You're getting some sort of observational feedback. Is that right? That's the EdTPA?
Yes. And the other great thing about it too is that the candidate also has to film herself teaching. And this piece is what I loved. And actually being able to use that example and connect to what we were learning with the Mentors Matter was amazing, especially the GPS reflection guide that we were looking at. We were able to pull up her videos of when she was teaching, and then to be able to pause and say, here was an area of strength, here was an area that we could maybe think to refine. And so I appreciated that in the spring, she had already had some teaching experience. Then I was able to use a lot of the resources that Mentors Matter provides with a lot of their guides, and to then have those conversations with my candidate, it just made it a lot richer. We even developed a deeper relationship as far as trying to make sure that we really honed in on her practice and making sure that she felt comfortable. So the training itself was wonderful to have a teacher candidate. And then I was asked to serve as a facilitator this year to help other mentors in our district. And through this process, it's really just opened up a lot more doors and opportunities to help teachers in my homeschool. And to have that experience previously, I think allows for more teachers to relate. It's not another, this is what you have to do. This is a tool. This is a resource. And I am also with another teacher candidate this year. So it's kind of full circle. I am facilitating and helping others. And at the same time, I am refining my own practice and using all of these guides myself in my classroom.
What do you think is the standard experience of a mentor prior to being part of Mentors Matter? And how does Mentors Matter sort of shift what you get in terms of your own knowledge to be a mentor?
I can definitely say from experience that it shifted my mindset from just last year to the beginning of this year, and the way that I need to approach the candidate and the way that I need to present myself. And this year has also given us another set of challenges. And even in the midst of these challenges, I have stayed true to things that I learned in the training in the spring to really bring more awareness, not only for my own practice, but to put myself in my candidate's shoes. And I think that especially we had our first training yesterday where we were going over some of the guides and talking to the mentors, and some are veterans and some have been in this in a very long time. And I think that some of them were very appreciative to finally have some sort of framework to work within and to help them stay consistent with other teachers in the district. They were very receptive, which was nice.
That's great to hear. Kayla, I mean, you have a full-time job as a teacher, and so taking on the responsibility of being a mentor teacher is an additional, responsibility. Why is it something that has been important to you, and what would you say to encourage others to take on this role?
So I try not to look at it as an additional role. I just want it to happen organically. And to be honest, I feel that the group of candidates that they are selecting for our district have been a really great group. And it's been a lot easier to have somebody that comes in already with a professional mindset and they are committed to wanting to be their very best. I feel that the part, especially with the training from Mentors Matter, is the relationship piece. And these candidates are with you all day, every day, and I want for them to have their own space in my classroom. I want for them to feel welcome. I want to do my thinking out loud for them to hear me so that they have an understanding for my day to day. And they want to be here and they want to do their best. And so treating them almost as an equal is my goal. I don't consider it an added burden. And I will be very honest, and I tell them at the beginning, I need you to help remind me when things are due, but I'll make sure that I am with you every step of the way. But when it comes to calendar times and things that need to be done, I need you to take that part on for me.
I'm curious to know, we're in this new era around COVID. How are you envisioning effective mentoring and mentor training working moving forward while we're still in the midst of dealing with this pandemic?
I, again, have felt very, very fortunate to have someone that has been tech savvy during this. In fact, our relationship became so much stronger by myself risking vulnerability and being very transparent and saying to her, I want for this to be an equal partnership. There are probably things you're going to be able to teach me, and there are things that are brand new to me. I just want you to know that we're going through this together. And she was wonderful when we had to sit down for our Canvas training, and I am looking at this college platform trying to figure out how do I make this fourth grade friendly. And being able to have a teacher candidate help show me how to do things so that I can be successful. I never once felt that it needed to be this inferior or superior. I wanted us to be on an equal playing field. And then once we got into the classroom setting, that's where I felt, my high of being able to go around and show her everything that I'm so passionate about in my classroom and her getting to learn from me there. Right now, we're creating videos and we're trying to push things out for our virtual learners. And I, in fact, just gave her a huge compliment this morning because I was so impressed with her initiative. She's wanting to do some of the vocabulary videos and to be very innovative with Google Slides. And her work has been phenomenal. And I just told her how grateful I am for that and that I wanted to reach out to the district and say, hey, she's doing a great job with this already. Can we upload some of these videos and let other teachers use them? So yes, this has been a hard and difficult time. I think that when we face Monday, when the students start to come back in, and again, we'll have another learning curve where she actually physically gets to see students and, we'll have another learning experience then. But I have learned just as much from her as she is learning from me. And I think the biggest takeaway with mentors is that every year you need to be open to learning more that it just doesn't stop. And just because you're a mentor, it doesn't mean that you know everything. So
I'm confident that when someone asks your student teacher years from now who their mentors were that had an impact on them, that she will say, Kayla Harrison was a wonderful teacher who taught me a ton and also helped me feel like we were equals. That's a really important and powerful thing that you've been doing. And so as you get ready to have your kids back, thanks so much for taking time to talk to us. I know there's a lot so much going on right now. And as a parent of a fourth grader and a fifth grader, really, really grateful for everything that you and every teacher across the state are doing to make this work for our kids. So thanks for taking the time to join us. Thanks for
Thank you, Kayla.
Thanks for training future teachers as well. And best of luck to you as your kids come back. I'm sure it's going to be exciting as much as anything else.
yes, thank you. I appreciate this honor and being able to come and join. And I look forward to hearing more of these episodes. So thank you.
Okay, now we're excited to have join us from the Department of Education, Michael Derline, who's the Senior Director for Educator Licensure and Preparation, and Martha Moore, who's the Senior Director of Educator Effectiveness at the department. Michael and Martha, thanks so much for joining us. So we're going to start with a sort of more personal question. You all were both educators. Tell us a little bit about your own mentor experiences, any sort of great experiences that you had. Martha, we'll start with you and then Michael.
My supervising teacher for my student teaching was a particularly strong biology teacher. And I think when I think about that experience, I learned so much, particularly about how to make relationships with kids. And I have carried that from Mr. Grimes' classroom for many, many years about putting people before paper and thinking about who the kid is as a person first. And I think that's something that he exemplified. I had another experience in a classroom that it was a middle school classroom, and I learned a lot about classroom management from that educator, from her classroom. She ultimately became a director of schools, so I think I probably was with someone who really had a good, strong sense of classroom management, process management, and she really shaped the way I thought about how to organize a classroom. So for me, the mentoring I got through my candidate experiences was really a positive relationship and a positive influence on my career.
I wish I had more positive things to say like Martha just did, but my experience wasn't the greatest. I was in a very, very large high school in Brooklyn, New York. I taught for 5 years there and provided special education services to students. And the mentoring I got was probably less about coaching, less about that, and more about getting through the day. And it was focused more on the paperwork aspect. And I did not feel like the teacher that I was working under was really adequately prepared to provide strong coaching, to be honest. And so that was lacking. And so I found myself looking to other teachers in the building. And I was in an alternative certification program. So I was serving as teacher of record while doing my preparation program. And so I reached out to other teachers and kind of pulled what I could from them. And I think they were more than willing to provide that support that I wasn't really getting from my mentor.
Well, so Michael, you're the 20% on this podcast that didn't have a great experience, but probably has been instructive as you've been working on some of this. I know Laura has an opening question, but I'll be interested to hear how your own experience plays into the work you've done too.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that and say, given the experiences that you all have had and the work that, you are responsible for at the State Department, knowing what research has been done with Matt and Kevin around Mentors Matter and, looking to see how we can make beginning teachers, mentoring experiences more effective. What does that mean for you all in the work that you do? And how do we take what has been found in the research and, put it into action?
I've learned a lot. I've been with the department now for almost 8 years on this team. And one thing that I've definitely learned is that our preparation providers are they all have the absolute best intentions in mind and want to do really good work in this space, but sometimes it's a challenge to figure out what does that best work look like. And so I think one thing that has come out of this IES grant and Mentors Matter work is trying to put some structure around what training can look like for clinical mentors. That's just a space that we haven't operated in much. Historically in educator preparation, the state has really kind of served in more of a compliance accountability type role. And this really kind of pushed a shift toward quality and trying to get information back to educator preparation providers that they can genuinely use to improve their programming. So prior to the Mentors Matter work, we saw some pretty significant inconsistencies in what training looked like. And in some cases, I would not have called it training. It was more compliance oriented, providing details about mentor responsibilities, all of which is important. But I think what we've done with this work is put a little more structure and content to what high quality coaching of adults looks like. And so I think that that's starting to catch on, and I'm extraordinarily excited for how we can take what we've learned from this project and turn it into a more sustainable approach that all EPPs can use and hopefully districts can pick up as well.
Martha, when you think about the experience of, I know you work on educator effectiveness, and part of that is thinking about team and evaluation. One of the things actually we haven't spent a lot of time on the podcast is thinking about how actually I think there had been concern among potential mentor teachers that being a mentor could harm their own evaluations. But this research found actually sort of the opposite of that, that in a lot of cases, or on average, teachers are getting higher observation scores. Just what, as you think about both the effectiveness of the incoming teacher and also the effectiveness of the current teacher, what are the things you feel like you've learned and that might instruct where the department goes from here?
One of my fundamental beliefs about good instruction is that it actually is good coaching. So if you only tell students what they need to know, as opposed to ask students how to think about what they know or don't know, or understand or don't understand, you're limiting their ability to self-direct learning. So I think that the team system actually, when implemented well, is based on growth and coaching for the teacher and how the teacher coaches students. Mentors Matter is inherently grounded in the same thing. How are you, as a seasoned professional, coaching a novice professional and helping them unpack their own thinking about teaching practices? So it makes sense to me that the research would say that a teacher who is practicing very concrete coaching skills and being very deliberate about how they're thinking about supporting a novice teacher would inherently be someone who would then turn around and do that with their own students. So to me, the two go hand in hand.
So how can the State Department, with the resources that it has and with the responsibilities that it is tasked with, take the findings from the work that Matt and Kevin have done around the fact that, serving as a mentor teacher doesn't lower your evaluation scores, and that having more effective teachers serve as mentors leads those who are the mentees to go and become more effective. How do we take those findings and act on them?
Yeah, that is kind of what we're trying to figure out right now. Kevin and myself and a number of other people, some new folks to the department, have been having some pretty substantive conversations about what this next year can look like. And we've been talking about, one, trying to identify the best way we can take the training that we've developed and refine and turn it into something a bit more portable that EPPs can actually use in their program. And so that's one thing that we plan to do this year in hopes that more folks will have access to this training. Otherwise, I think there is also work to be done around identifying strong mentor teachers and providing them some sort of incentive to continue to serve. And so we've been talking about various credentialing or badging in our licensure system that would kind of flag these folks either as those that we have identified through some of Matt's algorithms or a refinement of those algorithms that suggest that these individuals have the potential to be strong mentors, or those who have gone through the training that we've now identified as having a positive impact on candidates and students. And giving them some kind of a badge that districts can see and recognize as valuable. And so thinking about that kind of teacher leader space and how mentoring fits into that, I think has been another part of our conversation recently.
I would add to that we're also looking at how to strengthen the guidance we have around strategic compensation and how districts might look at ways to reward teachers in a very specific performance-based pay option for serving as a mentor and having certain credentials when they serve in those roles.
Martha, that's a little bit more of a policy implication. Are there any other policy implications? I mean, Matt talked about the fact that Tennessee was one of the earliest states to adopt some set of requirements around teacher effectiveness to be a mentor. Are there other policy implications that you all are thinking about?
Our office is responsible for reviewing and approving all of the educator preparation providers and programs in the state. And as part of that, we lean on the CAPE standards, the Council for the Accreditation of Educator Preparation, and mentor selection and training is most definitely called out in that accountability work that we do. And so we've thought about how EPPs could use this training to meet the expectations of that specific part of the CAPE standards. And I think that gives EPPs an incentive to do so, where instead of having to reinvent the wheel, develop their own training, we can use one that's grounded in research that we've been able to do that we know has an impact. And then that allows them to meet that expectation for their ongoing review.
Final question from me overall is just, if you all were to think each about one sort of your one biggest takeaway from this experience, the research and the experience of going through the Mentors Matter initiative, what would that be?
I think teachers really want to mentor new teachers. I think that's something that most people want. They want to help a new professional. And so that eagerness is something that came through clearly as we started working through this training. And then when we said, okay, this training can't be in person, we're going to chunk it up and we're going to deliver it to you so you can deliver it to them, they went, okay, we can do this. So every time that we've massaged it in whatever way we've massaged this training to deliver, they have been super receptive and really interested, both from the EPP side, the mentor side, to take this on and do it. And the ability to take up the coaching skill that we actually kind of dissected for them and said, here's how you start the conversation, here's how you follow up the conversation, here's what you do next, here are the tools to use. And you can do this in lots of ways, not just about this one topic. And watching them take that, adapt it to their own work, and move that forward has probably been my biggest takeaway, is that these teachers are ready for this training. They want to support, and the more we can give them, the more they're going to take and the more they're going to implement in really strong student-facing ways. And teachers want this learning. They know how to turn it over. And if we just give it to them, they're going to rock with it.
I'll admit what I'm about to say is super corny, but mentors do matter. that is the biggest takeaway from this. And, clinical practice matters. Getting prospective teachers in front of kids and giving them an opportunity to practice, reflect on that practice, get feedback on that practice in a high quality way is the space in which we should be really focusing on improving and giving folks the tools to be able to improve their own practice. We spend a lot of time when we do our comprehensive reviews physically, well, hopefully we'll be able to do this in the future, but physically at EPPs and visiting schools and seeing current candidates working with mentors. And it is extraordinarily exciting to watch, to walk into a classroom and not really know if the person that I'm seeing teaching is a student teacher or a mentor. That is a pretty cool experience. And then when you realize that you're watching a student teacher, and then you watch the mentor and you see that what they're doing is just so impactful on that prospective educator's practice, it really is pretty inspiring. So mentors matter. Clinical practice is definitely a space where I think we need to continue digging into and providing as much support as we can to our providers across the state.
Martha and Michael, thank you so much for joining us today and taking time out of your schedule to help us continue to spread the word about this research, because we know that it's being used in Tennessee, and we expect that it will also be used outside of Tennessee. So we really appreciate all the work that you do and for taking the time to join us on the 10th period today.
Happy to. Thanks for having me.
Thanks,
Thank
y'all.
you.
Well, Erin, that brings us to the end of another episode of the 10th period. And I know we've been talking about actually doing this episode for quite some time. I just want to encourage all of our listeners to actually check out the Mentors Matter brief that lives on the TARA website. It's called Learning from the Best, Promising Practices in Preparing Tennessee's Future Teachers. And, check it out. It goes through the key findings, has some nice graphics and visuals that actually talks you through all of the numbers behind the research that Matt and Kevin were talking about today, and mentions, some of the next steps in terms of policy implications and future research. So just encouraging all of our listeners to check that out. Erin, any key takeaways for you or thoughts from the conversations that we have had with our guests today?
My biggest takeaway today is the training of teachers is so critical. And this research has found some very, I think, in some ways, simple things about the training of teachers that can be implemented well across the state and probably, to some extent in policy and practice. So, one, just that having a high quality mentor teacher really matters. So making sure that the teachers who we're putting in these positions to train the next generation are our best teachers, that's going to produce more and more of our best teachers. And that's all I think anybody really wants, right? And then the experience both for the mentee and the mentor it seems is a more positive one in that environment, right? So, Kaylor talked a lot about sort of her own growth and the partnership and some of the things that she felt like she learned. And then it does seem like there's a need for a good framework for training mentors. And it's good to see that the state has that. I think it'll be really interesting to see what the findings are from that. But the emphasis on this work, and particularly on making sure that we just have our highest quality teachers training the next generation of teachers, just seems so critical to me. Both from the policy perspective and frankly, as a parent, it just really makes a difference. This cycle is so important. How about you, Laura?
Yeah, I keep thinking back to my niece and what she said around everything I learned from my mentor teacher that she spent, multiple, kind of a whole entire semester with, getting advice, watching the way that person taught, and then Kaz carried that into her own practice as now a teacher responsible for her own classroom. I really enjoyed hearing from Matt about like the potential future of taking this research around providing trainings to mentor teachers and thinking about how can we make it virtual? How can we make it something that is more widespread? I think a lot of times, the previous status quo has been to ask people to be mentor teachers, and whoever raised their hand was the person who was the mentor teacher. So, using data, using algorithms, thinking more strategically about who those people should be, because I think hearing from everyone describing their own successful or not so successful mentoring experiences today, we hear the power of those experiences, and not only in just how effective people might be as beginning teachers, but also in whether even maybe they choose to stay in teaching, whether they felt like they were supportive and whether they feel like they're being effective, all influences whether or not they continue to stay in the profession. So I think that this is why this is a huge lever, and continuing to do research in this space really is valuable.
Yeah, I hope that we can tag on Twitter as many of those mentor teachers that folks talked about as we can, because some of those teaching training experiences happened, 15, 20 years ago, and everybody remembers it like it was yesterday. That shows just how important these relationships are.
Mine were 15 years ago, and I can think Miss Goss, Miss Amos, Mr. Whitfield. I mean, like, I can think, I still remember all of those names. So yeah, I love that idea, and I really appreciate everyone taking the time to chat with us about this today.
Yeah, and the last thing I would say is that this is a long-running research practice partnership, right? So the folks that were on this call today all are working together regularly on this. And Tara is an umbrella research practice partnership for these types of things. But I also feel like I learned some things about the way that doing research and practice really can work well. So that ends another episode of the 10th period. We'll look forward to a couple episodes upcoming on the Tennessee Educator Survey. We'll have some other things that we talked about today around training that we might be able to do more on. So we'll look forward to seeing everyone back here in the near future. And Laura, as always, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Erin. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Take care.